Typically in horror, trailers are structured in the same format in a way that is familiar to audiences and that it communicates the meaning about the film and that it advertises it to us. In this movie, I am going to show the different stages of a horror trailer's structure and how it is typical within the genre by using 3 different trailers from the movies of The Purge, The Conjuring, and The Woman in Black. The first stage of a horror trailer is the introduction of the characters, also known as the protagonist. The first thing that we notice is the equilibrium, which states that the characters have no issues or problems and that everything is normal and as it should be. We also see how the protagonists interact with each other, in other terms their relationships with the other characters. This gives the audience the sense of familiarity with them, and so we, as the audience, care for them, and we can identify with them, as they are sometimes shown to be ordinary average people. The Purge introduces the characters' relationships and interactions before the events of the movie begin to unfold. Here you have the idea of a perfect family, commonly known as a nuclear family, which consists of a mother, father, son and daughter. This brings the idea of a perfect family unit and how they are close with one another. For example, when the mother and father are walking with their child and how the family are at dinner laughing and being happy, which again is representing that perfect family unit. The other scenes also explore the relationships between the other characters, with the mother talking to the neighbours and the intimate moment between the daughter and her boyfriend. In The Conjuring, we are introduced to the protagonists of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Immediately, we as the audience are witnessing their relationship. This is the focus of the trailer, in which it explores their relationship as the story progresses with each other and how they are working together to investigate a supernatural presence. The next scene further on is how they interact with people in the lecture hall about the supernatural. We are given the relationship as calm and patient, and we as the audience realise that they are husband and wife, and that how the title credits say that the movie is based on the true case of the Warrens, which immediately implies to the audience that these are based on real people. In The Woman in Black, we are introduced to the protagonist Arthur Kipps. We hear non-diegetic soundbridge of a man that becomes the diegetic dialogue of his conversation with the protagonist, which gives the audience some information about the protagonist. We see his representation as being of a quiet and straightforward character in how he interacts with the other character, who turns out to be the non-diegetic soundbridge that we hear at the beginning, and we immediately see the relationship between the two and how the character interacts with the protagonists, becomes curious of Arthur's intentions and gives him some mysterious advice. The second stage of a horror trailer is the establishment of the setting and communicating where the action is taking place. The scene that shows this is commonly shown in an establishing shot, and with horror it can be at anywhere, any place. In The Purge, the setting is shown as an aerial shot as a suburban neighbourhood, which is mostly filled with big houses, which symbolises the perfect area in where the protagonists live. This establishes their status as being luxury and having perfect lives. This can also help the audience relate to themselves, as because the plot is set in the typical neighbourhood, this makes the audience think that it could also happen to them. In The Conjuring, the setting is established in a US state's county home. This establishes the other protagonists, the victim of the supernatural presence, as a middle-class family and how they are wealthy enough to afford a big house. In The Woman in Black, the setting is established as an old abandoned house. This establishes the setting as having some sort of history that has had a dark twist in it, and with the vines and fauna around it shows us that the house has not been touched for years. The third stage of a horror trailer is the disruption. It is typical in horror because there has to be a change of event in the plot that starts the narrative. It is where the problems start to occur and are shown to be directly impacting the protagonists in the film/trailer. In The Purge, we are shown CCTV footage of a man being physically assaulted and gunshots being fired. This immediately shows violence and abuse, which implies that this is not what it seems and that something else is happening outside of the neighbourhood, and the way that it is transitioned makes it look like it was trying to be hidden away. In The Conjuring, we immediately see the supernatural presence that is happening to the family and the problem that is occurring to the family protagonists. You can see how they react to the paranormal activity, with a girl being dragged across the bed and the paintings and photos that fall into the ground. The main focus is the girl that gets dragged, as we as the audience are focusing on her reaction and how the parents come rushing to her. In The Woman in Black, we see Arthur Kipps being taken to the house that he is trying to sell. When you look at the screen, you can immediately see that this is not a typical old house, in the reason why it is completely surrounded by a marsh. We are then accompanied by a sound bridge, non-diegetic dialogue from the same man of his conversation with the protagonist. This straight away says that something is not right and that the house setting might have had a horrible past. This also matches with the cross that has been placed along the road. This symbolises that there must be something supernatural in the house, because the cross is always or sometimes used to keep evil spirits at bay. Within all trailers, as well as horror, you always have the film company's ident. This comes usually at the start of the trailer to give credit to the company that produced and funded the film that is being advertised. This is shown in The Conjuring and The Woman in Black, where the institution is shown first, but it can also be at the near middle of the trailer, which is what happens in The Purge. Particularly within horror, the film company's ident is manipulated in the editing to match the theme of the movie. This is also why some of the idents are put at the beginning, so that the audience can look at the logo and they can tell what the theme of the movie is, if it's either supernatural, slasher or thriller. What we can evaluate from this is that some film companies like to put their idents at the beginning, so that the audience are shown in a way like, hey, we are this big media institution and we are going to show you our next project, and here you go. Whereas some trailers put their idents at the beginning. This would be the best way, because with that structure, the film institution wants the audience to grip onto the trailer and they want it to attract them, so that they will watch the rest of the trailer. For example, an audience is browsing through YouTube and finds a trailer for a movie that he or she likes. They then watch it, and as the trailer progresses, it attracts them, and they watch the whole video, and when they see the ident in the middle, the audience will respond to, wow, Warner Brothers made this. This happens in most trailers, but not all of them. In The Purge, the ident is of Universal Studios. Its logo is of the Earth and the company's name spinning around it. In the other genres of film, the company's logo has the countries in bright light, whereas in this trailer, lighting is of both bright and dark. This could be to symbolise that there is a battle between good and evil in the plot. In The Conjuring, you have the idents of Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema, and they are styled in an old movie format, and how they are grey. And after the next scene is of a movie of the Warrens' investigation. In The Woman in Black, you have the idents of Hammer and Momentum Pictures, in which you have it covered in mist. This relates to the setting of the movie and how it is isolated on an island surrounded by a misty marsh. All these idents have been themed so that they match the horror genre, as it with any trailer, the company's ident is always themed to match the genre. The fourth stage of a horror trailer is further disruption. This is where the problem begins to affect the character more and it starts to involve them. In The Purge, you have violence which impacts the family by cross-cutting between the family and the CCTV footage of further violence. The scene is also followed by the dad getting weaponry out, which suggests that he needs to protect his family from an outside threat. In The Conjuring, you have the family that are terrified of the supernatural threat that has happened, that they have asked the Warrens to help them. The two separate protagonists come together as the Warrens work out what the supernatural presence is, in that something awful occurred at the house. In The Woman in Black, we see Arthur walking through the house, which is dark and dim, and how he interacts with the animation circle, and by doing so, he looks through the hole and sees the antagonist, which is the Woman in Black, and we are immediately alerted to his reaction of how the antagonist has made itself known to the protagonist. The next part of a horror trailer is that the main characters become victimised and we start to see their vulnerability. This is shown through the evil that enters their lives and terrible things start to happen to them. In The Purge, the threat enters the protagonist's home as the son wants to help the stranger when nowhere else would. The other protagonists quickly react to this and run to the control panel to switch the defense mechanism to armed. But the stranger succeeds to enter the house. We as the audience immediately see him as a threat because he is someone that we do not know and we are not familiar with. In The Conjuring, the supernatural presence starts to affect the Warrens. Lorraine sees a terrible vision of a hanging corpse on the branch of the tree. As Lorraine starts to see some terrible things, Ed cannot. In The Woman in Black, you start to see the other characters reacting to Arthur and his encounter with the antagonist, and how it has affected the townsfolk by fire starting off and how they become scared. In trailers, typically you have information credits of what the production company or directors or producers have previously done. For example, major blockbuster movies that have achieved high grossings at the box office, to encourage the audience who enjoyed the films that they have previously worked on to go and see the advertised film. In The Purge, you are told that the film was done by the producers of Paranormal Activity and Sinister, two very successful films for the horror franchise that achieved high grossings at the box office. In The Conjuring, you have the producers of Saw and Insidious, again, two very successful films that ended up earning more money at the box office than its budget. In The Woman in Black, however, this does not occur, but it mentions Daniel Radcliffe, who stars as the film's protagonist, because he is well known for his role in the Harry Potter franchise. The most common element of horror trailers is the showing of the main characters in extreme danger. This also allows the audience to see the antagonist up close with the protagonists and their relationships further into the film. We usually see the protagonists being attacked and further violence occurring more, but we don't see the full impact of the violence, as the trailer makes us anticipate to see what happened after that or what the results was, which makes us anticipate to see the film. In The Purge, this is a great example, as nearing the end, we see multiple situations of the protagonists in danger and having violence thrusted upon them to show how they react and what the antagonist's power or dominance has upon them. We begin to see more of their vulnerability also, and the fight they have with the antagonist. In The Conjuring, we begin to see more of the supernatural presence and how this greatly affects the protagonists by scaring and harming the characters. In the end, we greatly see more of the impact the antagonist has on the female characters, which included the mum and Lorraine. In The Woman in Black, it is the same as more danger occurs as the supernatural being makes itself known and starts to harass the protagonist, including the danger of the other characters, such as the child walking towards the train, and also the element of fire and the opening of a coffin with a decomposed corpse. This shows a great element of horror, and it adds little clips that will make the audience feel uncomfortable. To evaluate this, part of the trailer leads to no resolution and no equilibrium, but the aim of this is to leave a cliffhanger for the audience, because when we watch the end of the trailer, we start to ask questions in our head. For instance, are they going to make it? What will happen to the antagonist? This leads to make the audience have enigma, meaning questions, and when they think of the questions, the audience are curious to see the movie so that they find out what has happened and if the protagonists have a resolution and a happy ending. At the end of the trailer, you have the title of the film that is currently being advertised and the day that it is released on screens. This is so it supplies the audience with the main information that they need to know, i.e. what the film is called and when it debuts, because if they like the trailer of the film, they will want to see the final motion picture and they would want to know the day it comes out. In The Purge, you have the title of the film come up behind the flag of the United States, but it is not shown in the patriot colours of red, white and blue. Instead, it is shown mainly in brown, which symbolises that the people of America have had a change in patriotism, and with the day, the transition appears as a TV fault, and it shifts each time. The caption directs to the audience with "of survived the night," along with the date of May 31st. Next, you have the Facebook address as well as the website, and the film company's ident show all the companies that helped make the motion picture. In The Conjuring, you have the name projected onto the screen, but it has been edited to appear as spooky and mysterious, hence why the name has faded through the cracks and white light. This effect would again show the theme of the horror film, because the faded effect shows the feature of supernatural and ghosts. This is also how the date of the film appears, as it is also faded in to match the theme, and you have the items of the film companies in small images that sit below the frame, and it also gives the movie's website and Facebook page. This is typical of many trailers of films, including horror, because the companies are wanting to use cross-promotion so the fans can go to the website for interviews, pictures and content. If they are on Facebook, they can check up on it for more details of the film. In The Woman in Black, it is the same with The Conjuring, as the effect it has is in the fading in and out, and with the use of the fog and bright light, which immediately implies that the theme was supernatural, and the date of the film's release as well, along with the film company's idents and the movie's website. The trailers show a repetition so that the audience remembers the name of the movie. This would be linked to the structure so that when the trailer has the audience's attention and attraction to the movie, that they are then supplied with the name of the film and the details that they need to know, which is why it is put last, including the website and Facebook page information. These elements show cross-promotion as they all show the details of the motion picture's website and Facebook page, which makes the audience want to explore both, and this helps the companies to anticipate the audience by releasing clips and mini-trailers, including interviews with the stars of the advertised film. The most typical feature of a horror trailer is the end scare. This is where the trailer uses an intense scene/shot to scare the audience. It kind of acts like a mini preview of what is waiting for them at the cinema, and the jumpy scenes which help the audience to boost about the film. They are usually accompanied with silence because the audience were filled with the score of the trailer that it leads to the final sting and a quick cut. The purge does show this because usually jumpy ends are more really used for the supernatural and psychological genres. The Conjuring and The Woman in Black both have an intense shot to scare its audience with using quick cuts. This element is more preferably used with the supernatural genre as both films have this. The Conjuring sees the main protagonist, Lorraine Warren, interacting with one of the girls in opening a music box, which plays a mysterious music as silence occurs a few seconds after, and we are seeing more of Lorraine's expressions of her reaction to the scene that is currently being shown. It depicts Lorraine looking directly at the object and closing the lid to reveal a woman's face with ruined mascara, and it is accompanied with a quick cut of Lorraine screaming to add the sudden jump to the ending scene. The Woman in Black shows this as well, but instead we have a woman voice saying she's, which identifies the woman in black, always there, and we are presented with a sudden silence, and when the protagonist puts his hand up onto the glass, the face of a woman suddenly appears, and the diegetic sound of her screaming that has been edited to an echo comes up to scare the audience.